We already know Brad Stevens is pretty much a genius, but what are you guys thinking so far on the moves that he's made during NBA free agency? Grade those moves. A, B, C, D, or F. Really, he's just kept the core together. Whether it's a starter, a bench player, doesn't matter. Whoever helped the Boston Celtics get a ring, well, it looks like they're coming back minus a player or two. So let me know what you guys are thinking in the comment section down below. Grade it A, B, C, D, or F. I want to hop on here today and talk about what the Boston Celtics could do with their final roster spot. As we know, they've made several moves so far at NBA free agency. So we're going to talk about that in the first half of this show on Celtics Today by Chat Sports. Back half, let's talk about the rookie Baylor Scheierman and what he's expected to do for the Celtics this season. But just in case you guys are not familiar with what Brad Stevens has done so far in NBA free agency, let me refresh your memory. He extended Jayson Tatum, making him the highest paid NBA player in history. Extended bald-headed Derrick White, 4 years, $125.9 million. I still hate that number. I just wish it was $126 million, but whatever. He re-signed Luke Kornet, and I actually did find out over the weekend that this was Luke Kornet's idea to be the first name announced during NBA free agency. He actually timed it up perfectly because he thought it would be hilarious if the first move made in NBA free agency had to do with something around Luke Kornet. I love this man. Protect him at all costs. Then shortly after that, I re-signed Neemias Queta. I love Big Neemi. And then a few days later, Xavier Tillman secures a 2-year veteran minimum deal to stay in Boston. But what could they do with their final roster spot? Well, the Celtics would need to look at veteran minimum guys. Why? Because they have over a $200 million payroll over the next couple of years. So if I'm looking at any players in NBA free agency that I would like Brad Stevens to go out and obtain for the Celtics roster, I'm thinking vet minimum, low salary, low cost, not going to push that luxury tax line. So those players that come to mind are the free agents under 30. I'll get to those real veterans in just a moment, but I want to talk about some guys that still have a little while to grow in the NBA. Oshae Brissett. He could still possibly come back to the Boston Celtics. Lonnie Walker, a nice 10-point-per-game player for the Brooklyn Nets last year. I know they had some trade discussions during the NBA trade deadline last year, but Lonnie Walker could be a good little addition to the Boston Celtics. If Oshae Brissett does not come back, you're going to have Walker on that bench of that guard forward possession. Same thing with Saddiq Bey. I'm actually pretty surprised that Saddiq has not been picked up in NBA free agency yet, or as when we are making this video. I think Saddiq Bey was a pretty good role player for the Atlanta Hawks, who were struggling to find their identity all season long, but Bey was a pretty consistent bench player. But the Celtics do have a report out there that they could possibly be interested in bringing back Oshae Brissett. The reason why Oshae Brissett declined his player option is because he wants to explore free agency. He wants to see what team is out there that will allow him to have more playing time. I do not blame him at all. He actually was dismissed from the Canadian Olympic team to focus more on NBA free agency, which was the latest report from Oshae Brissett. But if they don't re-sign Oshae Brissett, here are some actual veterans in the NBA that are still free agents that the Boston Celtics could sign for $2 million or less. Kyle Lowry. We played Kyle many a times, whether you play with the Miami Heat or the Philadelphia 76ers. If you really want to back it up at that point guard position, I have no hate. I think that's great. I think that's a pretty thin line right there with Peyton Pritchard as your really only bench player to come in and give those point guards a rest. Gordon Hayward, a former Boston Celtic, not so much in his prime anymore. He currently was making $30 million last year, but he should be expecting a fat pay cut this year. Justin Holiday, the brother of Drew Holiday. Jay Crowder, once again a former Boston Celtic player, most recently played for the Milwaukee Bucks, but now looking to find a new home elsewhere. Then Robert Covington, the power forward. If they wanted to add more forward depth, I would 110% reach out to Covington. He just recently played for the Philadelphia 76ers, and I could see him possibly taking a vet minimum just so he could get a ring with the Boston Celtics. But overall, like I have said in previous videos, I would take Holiday. I think it makes the most sense. I think he's a versatile 3-and-D player, which you know Brad Stevens and more importantly, Joe Mazzulla loves, and the fact that it's Drew's brother makes this story 10 times better. He has not been picked up just yet when I'm making this video in NBA free agency. He most recently played for an NBA championship team, the Denver Nuggets. I think this would be a very wholesome story, and I think you're getting a pretty good defender while you're doing it. But here's the kicker. Brian Robb of Mass Live says the Celtics may not do anything with their final roster spot, so don't hold your breath. Here's the official quote from Brian saying the Celtics currently have an open roster spot on the 15-man roster, but there is a decent chance, according to a league source, that Boston keeps that spot open to lessen the luxury tax penalties to start the year. And I'll be honest, I don't like to get that deep into tax and penalties and stuff like that because I half-heartedly understand it. I'm not good at numbers, but I do know they don't need to fill that roster spot until February 6th, which is going to be right around the NBA trade deadline. They actually didn't fill it until around that time last season when they converted Neemias Queta's two-way contract to a full standard contract in the NBA. So they don't have to do anything for the next couple of months. Plus, when you look at what the Celtics are kind of facing here with the tax penalty, it is the fact that they are $5.1 million over that second tax apron. There are several penalties in the NBA that a team must go through if they do go over the second tax apron. So I know Brad Stevens, he is a mastermind. I know that he does not want to face any of those penalties. So he may end up leaving that spot open and just re-sign and extend all the Boston Celtics players that he knows can win an NBA championship. So with that being said, I want to know if you guys want Brad Stevens to make another move that doesn't have to do with the Celtics internally. Name a player you want the Celtics to sign during NBA free agency. There are not as many guys left, not as great of talent, but there are still NBA players available. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comment section below while I tell you guys about this great deal right now on Fanatics. If you guys go to chatsports.com/CelticsChamps, you guys are going to get this very nice bobblehead, fathead, whatever you want to call it, caricature Celtics Champions shirt in the crisp white. I love this shirt, man. I've seen a lot of different drawings and versions of the NBA Celtics champions, and I love this one from Fanatics. I picked this out for myself, actually. You got the starting five. You got their big heads right there on that shirt. You can see Derrick White's bald head just glowing on this white. So I want you guys to be able to rock this shirt in TD Garden this summer, this season. Go on ahead and get your 2024 championship gear right now at chatsports.com/CelticsChamps. All right, let's talk about the new guy. Baylor Scheierman is officially a Boston Celtic. He put pen to paper this weekend, and I could not be more excited. The fact that they got him at pick number 30 is still an absolute steal. And most of the time, contracts are not completely disclosed to the media, but from what I'm hearing on several different reports, it looks like Baylor Scheierman is expected to make about $12.8 million over the next 4 years on that typical NBA rookie contract. As you guys know, he was the last pick in this recent draft, and I think they got an absolute steal. But the big question now for Scheierman, who's heading into NBA Summer League, so we're going to get to see his action not so much with the starters of the Boston Celtics, but with the role players a little bit. Will Scheierman crack the rotation? Because we know that this is not foreign. We saw Brandon Podziemski, Trace Jackson-Davis. They broke the rotation. Even better, they started for the Golden State Warriors last year. So who's to say the Celtics could not acquire this rookie, who, keep in mind, will be 24 years old in September. I'm 25. I like to think of myself as a mature 25, but I know Baylor Scheierman, who has 5 years of college experience, can jump right in, and he knows ball. But let's see what Eddie House had to say about what he thinks the Celtics rotation is going to look like this year, saying the Celtics are set up to have their core guys here for the next 3 to 4 years. These are just plug-and-play guys. Like, okay, if we need some extra minutes from somewhere when some guy is going to take some rest, but for the most part, you want to get guys that are ready-made. I think Baylor Scheierman is ready-made. From the highlights that I've seen, he is aggressive. He knows what to do to make the play happen. And I do think they got an absolute steal. And it is different. You got to look at Jordan Walsh. He was very young. He only had 1 year of college when they drafted him. Scheierman's got 5 years of college. He's going to be 24 years old. He knows how to compete. And I do think he could possibly earn himself some minutes, maybe more so towards the middle half in the back half of the regular season. I wouldn't see him jumping off the bench anytime early, but adding another player to the rotation wouldn't be hurtful, knowing that Scheierman has called himself a Swiss Army knife. And to go into more detail about what he had to say about his accolades, he said, look, man, I'm a great worker. I love competing. I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. I'll go to the ground, go after loose balls, whatever. Knowing that he is a phenomenal catch-and-shoot three-point shooter, knowing that he is a defensive menace, the highlights that I have seen, he's not lying. He's truly on the floor, getting floor burn wherever it's necessary to make sure that play is still being made. I think they got an absolute dog in Baylor Scheierman, but with how extensive this Boston Celtics roster is, knowing that everybody's coming back, it's going to be the hardest task for this rookie to break and try to get some types of minutes. So we're really going to have to see what he can do in Summer League going up against other new pros that are playing for other organizations around the league. So with that being said, will Baylor Scheierman get consistent minutes this upcoming season? I'm not talking anything crazy. I'm not talking about 20 minutes per game. Could you see him maybe cracking about 5 minutes per game, really just starting to get in the rotation, maybe more so towards the back half of the games? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know what you guys are thinking about the rookie. And as always, go on ahead, hit that sub button for me if you love the Boston Celtics, if you guys are glad it's the offseason, and you're glad the Boston Celtics are NBA champions.